gentlemen, dinner and a show. In 5, 4, 3, 2, somewhere around start the meeting.
Yeah, we are.
Yes, we are. Indeed.
This is America's Got Talent. I do too.
Oh my god, I just wrote my homework. What is 5:30?
I know. We'll start in a second.
This is a long
Oh my God!
So, being more secondary. Yeah, and you ran cross country in high school. It's time for a job. Yeah, always.
I'm not. All right. Oh, I know outside. Are we on? I call to order the January 30th meeting of the Student Government Association. We are live streamed and recorded. Please review your agendas while Adam does roll.
Caitlin Egan.
Here.
Timothy Allen. Isabella Cattell.
Here.
Scott Dwan. Here. Nick Plumba. Here. Anderson Delaire.
Here.
Gage Glanville.
Here.
Justin Wald. Crystal Mills. Naomi Brito.
Here.
Travis McLaughlin.
Here.
Patty Soa.
Here.
Benjamin Burnham.
Here.
Kayla Leary.
Here.
Ariane Baker. Abby Glasheen.
Here.
Desiree Brown. Fabian Morales.
Here.
Haley Kane.
Here.
Isabella Moniz.
Here.
James McDonald.
Here.
Nick Black.
Here.
Savannah Souza. Miles Jordan. Gavin Fazio. Jacob Constant.
Here.
Austin Morgan.
Here.
Brandon Rita.
Here.
Maggie Roberts.
Here.
Daniel Lyons.
Here.
Liam Connor.
Here.
Angela Hayes.
Here.
Chris Pura.
Here.
Are there any corrections to the January 30th minutes? Seeing none, minutes are approved.
And now for your president's report, Nicholas Smith.
I appreciate it though. Hello friends, today we're continuing our conversation from last semester about finance and dining, residence life, and university finance. I would like to welcome you, I just want to remind you all that the comments in this conversation should stay on the topic of finance, not general comments about the divisions in general. Again, just a quick reminder, keep it on the topic of finance, that's why they're here. If we need follow-up conversations in other areas, I will absolutely invite those, but for this one, it's strictly finance. Without further ado, I would like to welcome you all back to Vice President of Administration and Finance, Steve Taksar, Director of Dining Services, Bill Connor, and Director of Residence Life, Chris Willenbrock. Thank you, everybody. I hope you'll still be clapping at the end. I think most of you were here a month or so ago when we presented kind of our initial thinking on fees and tuition for next year.
You may or may not know that the state the state sets the tuition level, which is $970 a year. It doesn't change, but the campuses set the fee level. And really, when you think about tuition and fees, it's really just one bucket of charges. It's segregated that way, but really for all intents and purposes, it's one common charge. So we go through a lot of work to really figure out what's appropriate given the market, given shifting economic conditions, CPI, et cetera, et cetera. So today I'm going to rehash a little bit of what I showed last time, not go into a lot of detail, but just to refresh your memory more than anything else. And then we've got our recommendations all lined up for what we're going to recommend to the board in about a week. And your feedback and conversation today is very helpful to us as we try to address increasing costs and keeping tuition and fees as low as possible. So let me get started here. I do have other folks that will be presenting. I'm going to kick it off, and then Chris Willenbrock will follow up with the Rest Life piece, and then Bill Connor will follow up with the dining piece. Okay, so here's the basic lineup. Talk a little bit about CPI. It has changed a little bit, but not substantially. Give you a recap on last time. Show you the recommendations. We do have a few course fees that are going to go forward, and they get into Residence Life and Dining. So we start thinking about CPI. It's a cost driver for a lot of things that we do on the campus. And actually, when I was here in December, it lags 1 month. So when I was here in December, it was tracking at about 3.4%. So that means based on the market basket of goods tracked by the federal government, prices have increased on average year over year by 3.5%. Excuse me, it was 3.2% when I was here. It's ticked up a little bit to 3.4%. So for all intents and purposes, it hasn't really changed much. But we do track it very closely as that is an indicator of how costs are increasing across the board. This chart should look familiar. I shared this last time I was here. It's really a comparison of where Westfield State is compared to the other state universities and UMass. You can see our 5-year history of tuition and fees. We combine the two into one category, so it's consolidated. You can see that on average, Westfield State is tracking at about the middle of the pack, which is where we believe it makes the most sense for Westfield State to be relative to the other state universities. Compared to UMass, we're about almost 30% less per year or per rate than UMass. So we are significantly different, but compared to the other state universities, we're running at about the middle of the pack in terms of tuition and fees. This should also look familiar. This is what I shared last time, a 5-year history of Westfield State over the last few years. Based on how you're calculating an average increase, you can calculate it in multiple ways. We're somewhere between 1.9 and 2.7%. So I have not compared it to inflation over the same period of time, but I would suggest it's probably less on average if you compare that to CPI over the same period of time. So pretty modest increases overall. This is what we think this is what we're going to recommend to the board. I think we talked about these ranges last time. The Board of Trustees also talks about a range at the beginning of the planning cycle, which we try to fit into, and these rates do fit into that range. So just to recap, what we're going to recommend is dining is probably going to go up to the 5% range. Bill will talk more about the details of the new plans that we're going to propose and the cost or the price associated with that. And he'll talk about why that is different than the other categories of rates. Chris will talk a little bit about Res Life, but that will go up about 3%. The general fee, which is the fee that supports all operations of the university, with the exception of residential life, dining, and also the continuing education department. They have to charge fees as well for the courses they provide and the services they provide. So the general fee essentially funds everything at the university except for units that need to charge fees to cover all their costs. At the end of the day, the overall cost of attendance for a residential student would go up about 3.2%, which, as you recall, is about 0.2% less than the CPI change over last year. And if you're a commuter student, you're not paying the residential fee increases, so you're just paying the tuition and fees. Your fees would go up about 2.5%. So again, that's still less than the rate of inflation. So based on everything that we've seen, this will not fully cover all our costs next year, so we will also be looking at ways that we can save money in other ways during the course of the year. But we think this is the most appropriate strategy going forward to try to cover the out-of-pocket costs for what we know we're going to have to pay for, and to try to keep our fees as low as we possibly can, but in a range that's competitive with all the other state universities. If you look at this kind of in a summary form, this is kind of a summary of all the elements that make it up. Your student activity fee, I don't think you're recommending any changes this year, so that's flat. This is the general fee I talked about. That's going up 3% or $297. We're not increasing the capital fee and the technology fee, so the total mandatory fees are clicking in at for tuition and fees at about 2.5%. You can see the residential fees and room rates down at the bottom. On average, they're going up 4% when you combine dining and residence life. And so when you get all this said and done, you get down to the bottom, it's 3.2%. It is about $800 more going into next year than this year. So that's sort of where we stand on the rates and how things play out relative to fees. The president also has the authority to approve campus fees. Campus fees are fees that are attached to an individual course or a lab. And so if you're a student that's taking that particular course or that particular lab, there's an additional fee for that particular course. So we have two new fees that are being proposed, or at least have been approved already by the president. There's going to be a $50 fee for students who take finance and courses in the School of Business. We're setting up right now, in the process of setting up a finance lab in the basement of Parenzo. This will be a lab that's open to students for hands-on learning. There'll be a Bloomberg software access system in that space. You'll also have access to other software like Morningstar, which rates stocks and does research to help understand what's happening with various equities and bond purchases. So it'll support the software, the technology that's needed to run that particular lab. So if you've been over to Parenzo, the Parenzo renovation project will renovate the room and take care of all the room and the furniture and all of those issues. But the lab fee, the $50 lab fee, will cover the cost to support that particular lab and the software and the equipment that's needed. So it'll generate about $50,000 or so a year, we believe. And the dean of that school has proposed to justify the president has approved this particular fee. The second fee that's been approved by the president is a course fee relating to art supplies called Weaving New Connections. That's a $40 fee per course. That will only generate about $700 a year, but it'll be enough to cover all the special supplies needed for that particular course. So you're not going to need to run around and try to find a way to buy those supplies or to procure them on your own. They'll be embedded in the pricing structure if you take that particular course. So, and that will appear in your student bill, as will the new course fee for the finance and data analytics lab. So those are the pieces that I was going to cover today. Pretty short and sweet, just to hone in on the actual rate increases that we believe we have to put through in order to carry forward. So with that, I will ask Chris McKenzie to come up and do your piece. Thank you.
All right, everyone in the back, Nick? Yep, we're good? All right, Bill, excellent. So happy to be here again. Like we are talking about this evening, looking at potential costs moving forward. We did share some of this information in December, so some of it should be a recap for folks. I wanted to start with the expense overview recap. Does anyone remember what percentage of our revenue comes from student rents? We're reaching all the way back into December. Anyone? I'll take guesses. 10% says Joseph. It's higher. Yeah, Jack.
75.
75, it's higher. Anyone want to try one more? Yeah.
97.5.
97.5. All right, Dan comes closest without going over. 98% of our revenue comes from student rents. So as folks are aware, everything is kind of going up. Our costs are going up. The expense overview is here in dollars and in a very big chart. This kind of outlines everything that we pay for, everything that comes out of every dollar of your room costs. I put it in a nice kind of pie chart. When we think about the amount that's going into our budgets per se, we have the MSCBA assessment. So that the MSCBA is the kind of governing organization that works with us. They are sort of our landlord, so to speak. So they work with us. They set a lot of the rates as well. Our staffing. So this is everything from residential life staffing. We actually have some of our facilities staffing maintainers who work in the halls come out of our budget as well as some public safety staff. Who do you all see in the halls, for those of you who are residential students? ISOs, absolutely. So all of these staff come out of that staffing category. Maintenance and utilities. Maintenance and utilities, this has certainly gone up quite a bit this past year. Again, this is everything from supplies to the actual cost of electricity, water, that type of thing. And then our student services, that's everything from like contracts around micro fridge leases, internet in the halls, all those types of things that are basically service contracts that we look at providing for students. So just wanted to share some of that. Again, this is one view of that. And then when I combine it into something a little bit more tangible, this is sort of looking at that other perspective. So again, this is what we're looking at every single year, having to come out of our budget and our expenses. And again, 98% of our revenue is coming from student rents. So when we look at room rate comparisons, you all can see Westfield State is down next to the bottom. There actually is a typo. These are looking at our room rents for this upcoming year. We anticipate, as Steve mentioned, we anticipate approximately a 3% increase over the current costs of room rent. This is by year. So our standard rooms will be going up to $88.10. We will have a design single charge that will be $93.10. And actually for our super singles, that's going to be $10,810. So it's not going to be 11. We're actually doing 1,000 per semester as we're currently doing. So these are our current, what we're proposing as room rates for next year. And I want to go back to this slide just to share, when you think about where we are and where we fall in terms of all of our sister institutions across the Commonwealth, we're actually still incredibly affordably priced. So we're within the lower third for all of these. When you look at not only the standard room rate, this idea of a design single rate, and then also a super single, and a super single being a double room that's occupied by one person, so a double as a single. So I'll give folks just another minute to kind of take a look. Again, these are the proposed rates for this upcoming year. The MSCBA, I know you all are, those of you who are residential students are probably aware that we do have and have had a flat rate structure for the last couple of years. The MSCBA has asked or required us to actually increase and have a differentiation between our standard rooms and our single rooms. So that's the reason for the upcharge that you see this particular year. And then you all are familiar, hopefully, with the room buyout process, which has led us to the extra 1,000 per semester for super singles. So that's where we are thinking about this upcoming year. The other things that are kind of in the works, I know we will be back February 20th to talk about housing selection. Who's excited for housing selection? Yeah, all right. That's all right. We'll get you excited for housing selection. That's all right. That's all right. One of the things that are a few of the things that are in the works. One, we do have year-round housing options. How many of you knew that we have year-round housing available? Oh, great. Excellent. So what we're looking at actually proposing for this upcoming year is having an academic year agreement or lease, but also providing a 12-month agreement. So for students who live with us year-round, really providing a true experience, and then we'll be working with dining to make that an all-inclusive rate for the entire year that also provides some form of a meal plan during those break periods. So more to come on that, but just a heads up that that's coming our way. We also have seen an increase in our number of graduate students. Does anyone know where our grad students live? Welch, yeah, absolutely. So we actually the last few years, we've seen our grad population get larger and larger. We've got about 20 now, which is fantastic. We're hoping to grow some of our graduate population in terms of our on-campus population. But looking at providing agreements not only for our grad students, but also folks who may be coming to us through CGCE, or who may be sort of non-traditional students looking at doing some type of program that's offered either on a short-term or rotational basis. So for individuals who are going back for some type of professional degree, if they have, let's say, a 2-3 week orientation, we can provide that type of housing option for them without them having to live on campus for an entire semester or year. So that's what that second point is around looking at some of our graduate programs and providing more easily accessible accommodations for them. And then, as I mentioned, we are currently preparing for housing selection. We will be back here. I'm excited to come back in February on the 20th to talk a little bit about who's going to be living where and what that selection process will look like. I will give a little bit of a teaser. Lammers is getting refreshed, and we will be bringing it back online for the fall. Yes! So we anticipate having all of our housing inventory open and available for folks for fall of 24 and 24-25. So we're very excited for that, very excited. Lammers needs a little love, so we're happy to have that come back into our housing inventory and to make it available for students with a little bit of a fresh coat of paint and some new flooring. And that is what I have. I will turn it over to Bill to talk a little bit about dining. Thank you all.
I'm just going to ask, what in the world is Chris on for energy drinks? Because I'm ending my day and nowhere near where she is. So I wish I had the Chris energy tonight, but I will share with you what I have from dining and what we're looking for. So a couple things for you. One of the things that I want to talk about, obviously, is where we sit for pricing and where we look at our meal plan. And some of the things I want you to know is that there's a lot of volatility in the food supply stream. For example, where the bird flu hit the United States at the end of December, which is driving the cost of eggs up about 10%, which is a really big number, right? And so something that you need to just be aware of is we start looking at, dining is the highest increase, right? But we're also currently still the highest CPI in terms of what it costs to provide a service to you here at the university. I wanted to share with you with eggs, but some of the other things that you need to understand is that the global environment right now is changing produce, for example. We will soon get to a point where we will be unable to continue to offer strawberries in the dining commons because the cost will get so high and the quality will go down so poor that we will not be able to continue to carry them in the dining commons. And that is typical in February, but this year is particularly worse because we've had such dramatic shifts. Florida's had some crazy cold spells. California's having a tremendous amount of rain and a lot of other issues that have happened. So please know that the volatility of the commodities in the food service industry are very difficult. Unlike the cost of Lammers, which stays the same, the cost for strawberries and things of that nature change tremendously. And with the egg piece, the other thing you have to understand is when we compound that with having to have free-range laying eggs, in the Commonwealth, that increases the cost tremendously. We're still about 6 to 8 months away from seeing a reduction in pork costs. Our pork is still at an ultra premium because of having to have gestation-free pork and Happy Pigs. And because of that, the large commodity producers such as like Smithfield or Hatfield or some of those Hormel pork companies have not been able to catch up with the demand that we need here in the Commonwealth. So please know that that's another one of those pieces that we hope in the next year we'll be able to resolve. But bacon is still at an ultra premium for us here in the Commonwealth. If you go to the Costco in Connecticut, you will see a huge price cut from the Costco in West Springfield when it comes to bacon, and that really has to do to the laws that we have here. So please know that that commodity piece we're looking at and keeping an eye on, and we've actually just started to have a more weekly meeting with our produce manager who buys for us so that we're able to capitalize on things that are at a good price, at a good time, and seasonally available at the lowest cost that we're able to offer to you to keep a great program. So please be aware of that. Another one of the issues that we've had a conversation around is costs related to theft. We just spent $15,000 on more plates for the dining commons. That does not include the new silverware that we bought, but the new silverware we bought is a much more economical version for us because it disappears more than anything else. So we just spent about $15,000 on plates. I'm hoping and praying that gets us through the rest of the semester. And know that that is one of the things that was not a budgeted cost. We had gone through all of the plates that we had budgeted for the year in the fall. The other piece that we are struggling with right now is glassware. Our Pepsi cups are disappearing tremendously. Sarah said the other day, coming in, she found 2 shoved in a snowbank. I found 2 this morning outside the apartment complex when I pulled into the spot next to the provost. People had just put their cups that they had walked out of the DC in the snowbank. And so those are the sort of factors that obviously are driving the price. I looked at cups before we came in, and they're about $1 a glass right now. So we'll have to unfortunately buy more of those to get through the rest of the semester because we have kind of exceeded the threshold where we're a little concerned that we won't have enough glassware to get through a meal. So please know that that is going to be one of those other factors. And in sharing with your peers, one of the misconceptions is that you pay for a meal plan so you can take anything and everything that you want. And I think that one of the challenges that we're seeing is that that's not necessarily the case. We had a gentleman do 1 meal swipe in the bistro and take 3 sandwiches instead of the 1 that you're supposed to. And so know that those factors highly impact the cost of your program. We're looking at ways to balance the budget. Even with a 5% increase, we're still looking at a $450,000 deficit that we'll have to cut in a programmatic way in order to balance the budget. As you know, 98% of the money comes in from student rents. 100% of the meal plan costs and the budget come in from your meal plan generated dollars from buying a meal plan. So with that being said, we will still have to find alternatives. I'm meeting with the management team this week and early next week to come up with a list of ideas that we'll then share with food committee, and then we'll get to make an honest decision collectively as a group. What are some of the factors that are impactful there? For example, in the last 2 weeks, we've gone through 300 missing to-go containers. We at 100% will be out of to-go containers by the end of the semester at this rate. And that's problematic. One of the other pieces that we saw with to-go containers is we're anticipating, we've kind of averaged out the cost. We're paying 50 cents more per student by using to-go containers, and it's costing us about $100,000 just to offer them in the amount of food that you're throwing away by taking too much in those large containers. So one of the factors that I've shared with you and will continue to share with you is that probably the end of the green to-go containers, however potentially devastating, are one of those factors that we'll have to have a conversation around. $100,000 gets us a quarter of the way that we need to in order to do programmatic changes. And short of cutting rice bowls again, which would make Adam everyone's targeted enemy, we need to find creative and alternative streams that don't impact the program for you in a negative way. So those are some of the things that we have an opportunity to take a look at. And those are a few updates on where we are with costs. Again, we talked a little bit about this piece. CPI is up again for food away from home. We're still trending high. We're not dropping as fast as the rest of the world. Obviously, energy and some of those other pieces are coming down, which are helping with our transportation costs. So fuel costs and fuel surcharges are coming down, but we're still having those issues. And again, The uniqueness of food is making it difficult. The cost of eggs going up almost 10% has an impact on that 5.2, and that number changes every month. It can change week to week, which sometimes makes it a bit difficult. We talked about where does the dollar go in dining. I wanted to share with you a little bit about this slide. With the tentative 5% that's going up, we have those listed here with the new rates. A couple things. I had preliminary conversations with technology and with Residence Life and with card services, and so we're going to be working on these new meal plan changes. So the Nestor and the Nestor Plus plan essentially will be those additional dining dollars that you'll be able to choose if you want to have a little bit of a bigger plan. The Blue and the Blue 15 will be that plus plan for you if you're looking for that Blue 15 Plus. Both of those plans will come with an additional $150 dining dollars for folks who are, dining dollar spenders. We have students that spend it all in 3 weeks, and we have students that barely spend any over the course of the semester, and many of you fall in between. And you probably know who you are, because at this point you may have already spent half. There are some people that haven't spent any yet, so please know that that's the case. Find a friend that hasn't spent any dining dollars and have them take you out for coffee at our cafe. The Gold 60 is essentially what we've decided to do to replace the 10 meals per week. We wanted our students to have an opportunity to have a higher utilization of meals. And instead of the 10 meals per week that expire if you don't use them, the 160 will be good for the course of the semester. And you'll be able to utilize those over the entirety. And then the Hoot 7, again, looking for a way for those students who are looking to be here 1 meal a day, 7 days a week, and to increase the community opportunity for them to engage on the weekends. We will have that new plan. Please know we have taken an opportunity to reduce the requirement on meal plans, with the exception of being the Hoot 7 as long as you live in the apartments or new hall with full kitchens. The only other restriction is that the Nestor's plan and the Blue 15 will be the 2 plans for first-year students. So regardless of what class year you are, you will have an opportunity to choose any of those top plans, with the exception of the Hoot 7 as long as you're in the new hall or the apartments with full kitchens. That really has to do with access to food. Whether we like it or not, air fryers and George Foreman grills are not something that's approved to be in housing. So just be mindful of that if you live in an apartment without, or you live in a space without a full kitchen. For our commuters, we're going to continue with the Commuter 5 and On the Go. On the Go is definitely the more popular of the two, although the Commuter 5 has allowed students a little bit more opportunity to dine on campus. And then the dining dollar only plan, which we'll put into play for next year, allows you just a more convenient way to access meals here in dining. Now, I know that there is a 9.4. Please know that this is not the rate. This is just representing what the cost is to dining. And so the delta between that 54.26 and the 52.08 is what we have to make up in programmatic cuts or changes in order to keep a balanced budget. So I wanted you to still continue to see the dollar value that has to happen in order for those pieces to line up and to keep a program. Just like Steve shared earlier, we compare ourselves to our peers. We have normalized our pricing structure, assuming that we all do a 5% increase and we all have the same dollar dining value. Westfield State is at the middle to bottom for meal plan charges. We're, within a couple dollars of Salem State, but they do still tweak us out by $2 at the top, and we're right there in the middle. Please know, again, we're $2,400 less than UMass, and we're definitely about $1,400 or $1,200 less than MCLA, which is the top end of what meal plans cost. I just want to explain normalizing meal plans for me. Every program and every meal plan at the state universities is slightly different. They might have more dining dollars. They might have different term dates and those sort of things. So what we do is we take unlimited plan to unlimited plan and look at them. If someone offers more or less dining dollars, we normalize the price by adding or subtracting dining dollars to match what ours is. And this includes a 5% overall increase is what we're doing, assuming that that's the case. And most of our peers will do so. Remember, other than UMass, we're the only other self-operated dining program in the country, and often contracted dining has a much higher increase than it would be if we were to be self-op like we are. So it'll be interesting to see where they fall. But as you know, with tuition, it's a big secret until it's not, and then we'll find out those sort of pieces. I will briefly touch on what Chris had shared around one of our goals that Food Committee established last year was access to year-round food. And we're excitedly working on a plan that allows for a 12-month lease and also a summer and break meal plan so that folks that are here during the 12-month period will have access to food. We will be opening TJ Bistro like we did early this year for folks that will be here during spring break so that there'll be an option available. And we'll be able to continue to work through that component. And we'll have food available during that break for folks that need to utilize it. We're working on how that cost will look because obviously spring break is not included in the cost of your meal plan. I did have a really good meeting today with Laura and Marjorie Rodriguez from the Care Center. There's a grant we're going to go apply for to cover food insecurity on campus. So we're working on being able to launch EBT or SNAP benefits in the marketplace. Sarah has a meeting on Friday with the firm to get that launched, and then looking at some other options to kind of normalize access to food for students across campus. So that'll be something interesting for us to engage with as we move forward. So I'm hoping, we have a way to, make access to food not something that people feel marginalized about. So I will open up to questions for all of my peers, whether it be Steve, Chris, or myself, and turn it back to him.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Bill, Chris, and Steve? Joseph Bonilla.
Excuse me, this one's for Steve. So when you were mentioning the new campus fees, I was wondering, so I know you mentioned the class with business and finance, and they paid for the software, and then the art specific course would pay for the materials. I'm wondering if these would be, once they pay these fees, would they be able to have access to the same materials throughout the time that they're here, or if they were to take another class that requires a fee like that they would have to repay that? Like, is it communal looking, or is it more you have the stuff that you need?
Unfortunately, I don't think I can answer that question, but I would assume if they are kind of disposable supplies, you would keep the disposable parts. If they're buying special equipment, that may need to stay with the course. With access to the finance lab, I would assume you have access to it on an ongoing basis once you pay the fee for the course. So that's probably as much as I know about how that fee is, how the access will work when you keep the supplies. I would imagine you keep the supplies. I'm not sure about the tools.
Thank you.
Caitlin Egan.
Hi, Phil. We spoke to I think 2 years ago now about halal meat in the dining commons in the worry-free section. I believe that it was implemented, but from my understanding is halal meat is much more expensive because it has to be prepared and transported a certain way. So just because we're talking about finances, I was wondering if that is still going to be offered to our students who practice Islam.
Yeah, so we have, I have to double check on the hamburgers. I believe that the hamburgers that were being worked in and worry-free, and Sarah, maybe we can make a note to talk to Matt and then share with Jasmine. The burgers at worry-free, in addition to the chicken, were supposed to, well, I know the chicken definitely is halal certified. All of the white meat chicken without a bone in the dining commons is halal certified. Where we purchase our chicken from, the entire plant is halal certified, so there is no additional cost for us to have chicken halal certified. It has a lot to do with the cooking environment. So when we prepare it in the oven over at worry-free, we do not introduce it to any other contaminants that would then otherwise make it non-halal. I believe that the burgers over at worry-free we were switching to were also halal certified. The worry-free station overall is probably 1/3 to 2 times higher than any of the other food that we offer in the dining commons. So the world and the food system has not quite aligned with offering, dietary changes or need-based issues. And we struggle in food service procuring goods that are produced in either an environment or in a commercially sized package to offer it worry-free. For example, you'll see cookies over there that come in a 2-pack, right? Our bakery obviously has gluten as a natural occurring environmental factor, so we are unable to produce those cookies in our bakery, so we have to buy them. They don't package them in a commercial size or at a discount or what I call a Costco size, right? They only come in 2 packs that you would buy over the counter at Stop and Shop. And that increases the cost of what we do over there. Sun butter is probably twice the cost of what we pay for peanut butter. Dairy-free options over there are quite expensive. We wanted to normalize the process so that anyone who has a food allergy can be part of the community and experience dining much like anyone who doesn't have a food allergy. And so that cost is shared by all participants because that station is open to all participants. And for example, today I really liked the enchiladas we had, but you wouldn't know that they were top 9 free because of how they were. But that product has a much higher cost for us to produce. You know what I mean? The burgers at that station have a little bit of a higher increase, but not enough that it's substantial. The overcost of that program is expensive, but it's one that we feel is important, right? We need to ensure that we have an environment where everyone feels safe to come in. Yeah.
Savannah Salsa.
So with the dining ware going missing and stuff, what about having an option of a disposable option where people can take out disposable cups out or that stuff?
We do. So at places like ice cream, so let's back up. You're allowed to take a single item out. So if you want to take an ice cream cone or a banana or an apple and you're eating it on the way, we have paper cups. If you want a small cup of coffee or that sort of thing, we encourage you to take it, right? If you have your giant Stanley, which surprisingly not everyone has, but I'm shocked that we have a couple Stanley fans in here, and not the cup for hockey. We encourage you to fill your Nalgene or your Stanley or your Hydro Flask or whatever it is you're taking. Beverages for us are a pretty low cost compared to some of the other options that we serve. They still have a cost, but they're relatively low. So we encourage that. The problem we run into, however, with to-go vessels is that they get filled with the wrong things. So when we put out gummy bears at the ice cream station, for example, people will come and fill an entire 16-ounce cup of gummy bears, which will end up costing us $4 or $5 because gummy bears are expensive, right? And so the more to-go vessels we offer in the dining commons that allow you the convenience of being able to leave, unfortunately lend themselves to other challenges, right? And your meal plan is balanced with dining dollars and meal swipes, right? If you're looking to buy gummy bears to eat after a weekend or an evening or whatever it is you're doing that requires you to have massive amounts of gummy bears, you can go to the marketplace and buy gummy bears in bags just like you do anywhere else, and that's what that program is meant for. The dining commons is priced to have 3 or 4 gummy bears on your ice cream, not an entire cup taken. We have people that load up in the DC on baking items. So for example, we'll walk by and all of the butter will be completely missing from the bagel bar because someone has taken all of the butter to use for baking or in the kitchen or those sort of things. I have no idea what you can do with 4 pounds of butter at one time, but those sort of things end up happening. And at the end of the day, those factors all add up. Our goal is not to make you feel like you're in a prison. Our goal is not to take away the flexibility and the convenience of what your meal plan offers. But unfortunately, if there's abusive situations and trying to educate your peers on the fact that you pay for a meal plan doesn't mean you have access to take everything that you want. It's really meant to be sustenance when you're in the dining facility. So the more of those to-go containers that we add, the more expensive it ends up being on food, let alone Massachusetts passed a law that PFA coatings on paper products are no longer legal because it breaks down into microplastics. So starting in January, the supply access we have to paper products has been cut in half has been cut by at least half. For example, we can't buy 6-inch paper plates because all the 6-inch paper plates in the country are produced with a PFA film on the outside, and they're banned in the Commonwealth. One of the things we realize is for government folks, we pass a lot of laws, but we don't often understand the cost of them and what that cost is. So like 6-inch plates in the dining commons for you to take a piece of cake or pie out is not something I can even procure at this moment because of the law that forbids the purchase of those. So that's the challenge. That's the long answer to a short question, but it really boils down to abuse and trying to get people to curb that. If we could cut abuse, we wouldn't probably have to raise meal plan costs at all. But it's all of the factors like the to-go boxes and the 4 pounds of butter that go missing, and 2 pounds of gummy bears and those sort of things that cause the problems. In addition to dishware.
Is there anyone you could take back to the slide with the meal plans, please? Thank you. Next question is Chris Barra.
So mine's for Chris.
Or
hi.
We're here.
So I wanted to ask, would students with accommodations for a super single be charged the additional fee to have that room?
Most likely no. But what will happen, students who have accommodations, going through the selection process will likely go into design, welcome back. Will likely go into design singles first. And let's say we got into a situation where, all the design singles are gone, but we still have a student with an accommodation and the only thing available is a super single, then yes, we would put them there without the additional cost.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Joseph Bonilla.
Hi. To briefly just back up the to-go situation, I had a question. Maybe this is something you guys thought about. I'm not sure. But I remember that you mentioned that it was a lot of cost for the maintenance of rehabbing more of them to do whatever. And I was wondering, what if you guys stopped doing washing service and just expect people to wash it and then bring it, because that way the containers, you wouldn't have to have a restock because people just purchased it at a standard price, and then they would be able to utilize that. And obviously maybe the finances might be a little skewed because you have to account for people reusing them or something. But
I'd be in jail. It's against the law.
oh, okay.
Massachusetts is always late to adopt the newest FDA code, and the FDA is the organization that sets food standards and laws related to the safety and service of food. To-go containers that you bring in from outside that are not commercially washed and sanitized are against the law, which is one of the reasons why if you go to a buffet, the sign says, please get a new plate every time. Anytime you bring a container back in that is not commercially, either by heat or chemically sanitized, you run the risk of adding a pathogen into the food system. So if you have a cold or a flu, or any of those other things, you maybe not have washed your container long enough, or maybe the food in your container was a science project yesterday, and today you decided to wash it and bring it in. The risk of you spreading things from your container into the larger vessels that we use to serve are there, but it is against the law for us to allow you to do so. I'm so sorry. I would not do well in prison. I worked in one of the 6 months, and it is not my cup of tea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Story time for later.
Since the to-go box process is considering being no longer
Ended.
Is there any process you're considering to get the boxes back? Because I feel like you could use those for something else, or maybe sell them or something to.
If there are any left at the end of the semester, I would be happy to gift them to whoever would like them, but they will not be able to come back in the dining commons unless we figure out an alternative solution. So don't think the unused boxes are going to be thrown away. We can find a use for them. The challenge for us is the cost of overfilling it is really the dynamic piece, in addition to the cost of the boxes, right? So we bought these boxes at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah, it was actually, I think it was 2021. So we skipped and then we.
Correct. Yeah, so it was when we reopened and had a limited number of students on campus. So we introduced these as a COVID measure. A lot of our peers are getting rid of them. So across the country, a lot of food service programs are actually discontinuing them. We thought it would be something that was sustainable, but for all of us in terms of our peers, the cost of the food that's taken out really is astronomical compared to what you're technically paying for. In terms of that piece, so are you looking to address getting rid of them or keeping them or taking them,
I
or?
don't know if you could always make some money off of them, find a way to do that, but I don't think that's fair.
The only way that we could have an opportunity to make money off of them is if you took a meal swipe and added $1 to it. So if you wanted to use a to-go box, you could buy it, and then we'd have to have a conversation around every time you use a to-go box, you pay $1 premium or something, right? So you'd have to use dining dollars or credit card. I will tell you that the largest problem we have with to-go boxes and with dishware leaving is that some of your peers are very awful to our cashier staff. I won't repeat on the record, but Sarah can attest that our cashiers are called very derogatory names and treated very awfully by some of your peers when they claim that they bought a to-go box but don't have it or a keychain. Or I paid for this gosh darn meal plan, I'm gonna take a cup out if I want to because I already paid for it. And
Or
so,
you can't stop me, I'm just gonna take it, and then reach behind them and take it anyway.
Yeah.
Even though they're like, you don't have anything
Yes.
to like, trade.
please know that I have inquired with Shannon and as they go into modifications of the student code of conduct, I do want to start to include some additional pieces around dining and treatment of dining staff and abuse, because a lot of times we run into issues where we talk to our cashiers and they don't want to stop students taking things out, or they don't want to have a fight with them because they don't feel like being belittled or called names. And that can be problematic. And that we know that our cashiers are not amazing at stopping students, but a lot of it boils down to just issues. I stopped students from walking out with blue cups. They went to the dish room, they emptied their blue cups, and then they put them in their book bag and took them anyhow. So like it's really a fight, and it boils down to the cashiers are meant to be your first and last well wish and a smile. They're not supposed to be there to fight with you. So I'd say that's the other factor that we'd have to get over.
Caitlin Egan.
Hi again. I was wondering with the removal of the to-go containers, if we could have a conversation about accommodating athletes. That's a really big thing. I don't know how other schools do this. I don't know if there are practices and their like dining hall hours are different than ours, or if we just have angry athletes, or I don't know. But I was wondering if we could come up with a solution for them so they can always have access to meals for dinner too.
I think the plan at this moment, I don't think it's on the table, is to continue to keep dining open until 9. I'll have Sarah step in just a minute and talk about the meeting with athletics today. One of the other pieces that's on the table is looking at opening marketplace earlier on the weekends so that students would have access to food who are athletes who might have a noon or late morning game can still grab a bagel or breakfast sandwich in marketplace and access the meal then. But Sarah met with athletics today and can share more on that and the to-go meals and things like that.
Yeah, so I actually meet with Nancy Balls and athletics at least once a week about like ways that we can help athletics, ways that we can change their snack program for their away games, or things that we can do to help facilitate that partnership with athletics, because obviously it's very important to us. And one of the things they said is their athletes aren't having issues. Their track team does like more organic than some of the things, let's say, their football team has. So we're working through that every day with them and ways that we can do it. The DC opening until 9 p.m. at night is for athletics, so that they can leave their practice shower and then feel like they can have a meal at the exact same time. So we are working through that with them, and we do value the partnership that we have with athletics. So don't think that we're not thinking of our sports teams. We are. And again, like on Friday, members of the sports teams are coming to SGA or into the food committee. So we'll see them there so that we can talk about them, because we've asked them. We want them to come and voice their opinions and tell us, what do you like, what don't you like? They didn't like the sandwich program. So if they were going to an away game, we would have them fruit, sandwich, water, snack, and they were all getting thrown away. Nobody was eating the sandwich. They were stopping at Burger King on their way home. They were not eating the sandwich. So 90% of what we were serving them was getting thrown out because they didn't want a cold sandwich after they ate, or they don't want to eat right before they eat, overloaded. However, we have come up with a program that's like a snack program. I call it that, but that's terms like we're getting mandarin oranges, yogurt cups, kind bars, things that they're looking for, and an array of items. And they want bottled water. They don't want to use their refillable water bottles. They want bottled water. So we're getting them a pallet of water. It's coming on Friday. So we are working through that.
Yeah, the other piece that we heard, and I'm excited they're coming on Friday, the other piece that we heard, particularly from Nancy, is that the to-go box program is not one that the athletes think about, and then it's the storage between games or if they're going to practice.
Cool. And yeah, I want to tie into that because Nancy will tell us like, hey, because our thought was, here's a to-go box, come fill it up before practice, put it back in your res hall, and then eat it after. They don't want to do that. They do not want to get food. They don't want to walk back to their res hall and put it in their fridge. They'll end up taking it to athletics with them. It'll sit in their gym bag for 3 hours, and then they throw it back in the DC, and they're like, it's full of food. And then it's full of food. There's like 5 pieces of chicken. Huge waste.
So Sarah and Nancy also connect with SAC. So we are trying to engage with them on a regular basis as well. But Caitlin, thank you for advocating for them. It means a lot that you step outside the bounds and think about folks that aren't you or your immediate friend group, so I appreciate you representing them. I appreciate it a lot.
I am an athlete, but thank you. I wish I wasn't, because that was really nice, but thank you. Thank you.
Any further? Seeing none.
I feel like the whole room is loud today.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Steve. Please do your flash right back, Steve.
I did it on purpose.
Right. Good. Thank you. We'll try to do a small motion. Whoa. All right. Hello, friends. I hope you're all doing well. Last week, Dan and I met with President Thompson. She expressed the desire for student leaders across campus to be more consistent in acknowledging the land we are on. As president of the SGA, interesting. As president of SGA, I may not identify as part of these backgrounds, however, I do want to recognize them and the land which our university is built on to create and foster an inclusive community. As an FYI, this isn't going to happen every meeting. I just wanted to kind of echo it through the student body because President Thompson echoed it last week, and that's our role as student leaders. So, Westfield State University was built and currently sits on unceded traditional ancestry territory of the Nipmuc, Pocumtuck, Agawam, and the Waranoko peoples. In recognizing the history and respecting the sovereignty of the Massachusetts Indian Nations, Westfield State University honors the heritage of the indigenous communities and their significant roles in shaping the course of this region. Further, we recognize the wrongs done to the forcibly remove them from their homelands and commit to fostering an environment of inclusion that is responsive to the needs of the First Peoples through our world's policies and actions. This preservation and perpetuation of the customs and traditions of the indigenous nations are essential to our shared cultures and heritage. A deep understanding of the Native peoples past and present informs the university's teachings, research, and community engagement in its ongoing efforts to evaluate the dignity of all peoples and serve as a shared steward of the land. So that's the land address. You'll probably hear it at more things across the campus, but just to familiarize you with it, I said that backwards. Anyways, I want to address an issue that's causing quite trouble on campus, specifically with parking. Many students have been parking in spots that are not designated for them. It's causing an inconvenience for our commuter friends who are having trouble finding places in commuter parking. Faculty and staff also are having trouble finding parking spots. Our friends in Bonacos who have accommodations that may require closer parking to their classes are currently unable to do so, which needs to be corrected. This is causing a lot of trouble within the student body, so if you are parked in a spot you are not supposed to be in, please move your vehicle. This is making it very hard for members of our campus who need the parking where they are to get to places that they need to. SGA is going to be posting an update to students on the parking situation soon, and I encourage all of you who have access to your class council's Instagram page or work with social media for other departments on campus to share this post. It is essential and it affects our students, which is our job as student leaders. Another quick reminder, as a reminder, President Thompson has her State of the Campus this Thursday at 10 a.m. in the Deborah Auditorium in Parenzo. This is when she will tell students what the institution's been doing and provide more information about the campus culture and activities, not campus activities, but things that are happening on campus. It will be a great event, so I encourage you, if you can make it, please do so. Lastly, SGA elections are coming soon, and if you have a talent for branding or spreading flyers and media, I would love for you guys to help connect with Elizabeth and I for our marketing. Please let Elizabeth or me know if you're interested in contributing after the meeting or for elections.
Any questions, comments, or concerns for Nicholas? Seeing none, thank you, Nicholas.
Board of Trustees report, Daniel Curry.
All right, good evening, everybody. Jack and I met with Director of Athletics at Glenfest and Carden Brown, the Recreation and Intramurals Coordinator, on Friday to primarily discuss the Parenzo Gym renovations and student engagement in intramural activities. As you all know by now, the Parenzo Gym, which was supposed to be open at the start of the semester, has once again been delayed due to the improper installation of padding on the walls. Barring any further issues, Parenzo Gym should be open within the next 3 to 4 weeks. We further discussed student engagement in intramurals, which has been a topic of discussion for the past few months. I am pleased to report that all registration forms for intramurals are now located on the Network, which will allow for a more user-friendly experience and make the process more efficient for athletics. We have also asked athletics to work with SAIL to advertise by email and social media that signups are available through the Network moving forward. Tomorrow, I'll be attending the Westfield State Employee Recognition Breakfast as a member of the Board of Trustees, where we'll be honoring the contributions of our employees, celebrating milestone work anniversaries, and congratulating our new faculty and staff award recipients, including Barbara Hand, who served as an advisor at SGA for over 30 years. Next week, the Strategic Planning Committee will be holding all-day sessions from Monday, February 5th through Wednesday, February 7th in Scanlon Banquet Hall. Comprehensive responses from the visioning sessions and surveys sent out to the campus community have been sent to the committee for its review prior to our forthcoming meeting. While I must keep these comments confidential, I will say that there are a lot of things to think about as we develop our strategic plan. Should you have any questions, please let me know.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Daniel Courier? Steve Taksar.
Just to add a little bit of context to Dan's comment on Lorenzo, the building inspector controls the ability for us to use the gym. So until everything is signed off on by the building inspector, we're not allowed to use the gym. So it's really out of our hands, and the contractor has to kind of speed up their activity. So what Dan said was correct, but until the work is completed, we're not authorized to use the gym. So it's part of the building inspector certificate of occupancy process. So we're working as hard as we can to put more pressure on them so that gym can get open. So it's a high priority, and I want to get the university to do everything we can to make it happen.
Thank you for that point of information, Steve. Any further? Seeing none, thanks, Dan. Common Hour Policy Task Force, Sarah Herring.
Everyone. Common Hour Policy Task Force, including Dan, Jack, and I, attended all chairs meeting yesterday to present our proposal. We passed out the proposal, letter to governance, proposed block schedule overview, and Dan's card for contact to provide questions or ideas throughout the week. We discussed our reasonings and explanations, and then we asked for initial thoughts and opinions. As expected, the idea of a new common hour during prime time had mixed reactions from faculty. Questions were raised about why we chose this time and if students would be willing to have earlier and later classes as a result. We explained that at other universities, taking an 8:15 is a norm and expectation. We had other professors say that this time would really affect their personal schedules as well as the schedules of their departments. We had other propositions for time blocks such as 1:40 to 2:55 on Wednesdays, or having both Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11:15 to 12:30, but getting rid of the current Friday hour. On a positive note, some department chairs were enthusiastic about the proposal and hope we continue moving forward. As emails trickle in with more insight from the chairs throughout the week, we'll continue discussing where to go from here at our meeting tomorrow. Thank you.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Sarah Herring? Chris Barrow?
Hi, so first of all, I would like to agree and disagree with the proposal that students like at other universities, it's a norm to take an 8:15. When we all get out to the real world, we can't like not go to work at 8:15. So I get where you're coming from that point, but having the common hour on Wednesday and Friday at 1:40 is kind of like, it feels a little.
That's not what we're proposing. That was something that they proposed.
That's what they proposed. I think that would be a little confusing for students.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with that, but I agree with the thing about the 8:15s and having that result.
Thank you.
Any further? Thank you, Sarah. Food Services Report, Jack Winden.
Good evening, SGA. Some papers are going around right now, take a look at them. They're the calendars for dining events for February and March. The blueprints for the new soda station. It's a little confusing at first, but if you look at it and have questions, I can explain it after. And then the last one is the allergens, just what the allergen symbols on the cards mean. That is something I'm going to ask them to hang up in the DC more. Some quick food service updates. Order ahead for late night is back online. It was shut off by mistake. Owl Cafe will have some pre-made sandwiches that you can grab and go. These would be available in the mornings, and you could pay for them at the register there before it officially opens at 9 on the Get Out. As Bill said, meals plans are going up about 5% next year. And then Bill also talked on this, but it's big, so I wrote in my report as well about the summer meal plans, something that food service has been working on for all of the year. So far, it sounds like the plan would be to have the Res Life contract and the dining plan together for 12 months. This would allow students to stay on campus year-round, and dining would be able to help supply them food. In June and July, the meals would be available in Bistro. It would be once a day. And then in July and August, the DC would open as summer conferences would allow them to, as there would be more customers, and it wouldn't cost as much to have to run it. This exciting news is this is something the committee's been working very hard on. So I want to thank Bill and the rest of the dining team for working with us, and the committee as well. The documents, and yeah, that's it. So if you have any questions on those papers, find me after the meeting, and once you're done looking at them, just get them all the way back to Nick or Adam, and then I can collect them. That's it.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Jack Whitten? Sarah Harrington?
I'm just clarifying, you said that they're gonna have grab-and-go sandwiches in the cafe, an Owl Cafe, but it opens at 9 on the Get Out?
So you go there at 8 and you can like take a warm sandwich, pay for it, and then go to class.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the grab-and-go starts before the Get Out?
Yeah, this is to supplement that. So if you're on your way to your 8:15 in Wilson or around there, you can go in at 8, buy one and go.
That's so smart.
So no get out involved.
Isabella Moniz?
Hi, I really appreciate that we're looking at a way to help students who are here year-round with food. However, I'm concerned about the one time during the day that students can get food. Do you have an idea of what time frame that would be for students who will be here?
It's looking probably around afternoon, so it's like they could get a late breakfast, lunch, and then they would have to get their own dinner.
Any further? Seeing none? Thanks, Jack. Advisory Committee on Academic Planning, Sarah Harrington.
This past Thursday, January 25th, ACAP met to further discuss the academic master plan. There are two focuses of this meeting. The first was to change the verbiage of Theme 3, which is invigorating, redesigning, and creating academic programs description. This change is to support and continually assess the general curriculum and support score. Later in the meeting, we broke into groups and workshops the performance indicators for each subsection and all three themes. Once the verbiage is finalized and the qualitative data is collected from campus groups, the academic master plan will be presented to the Board of Trustees. Moving forward, we'll go back to bi-weekly meetings instead of every week. Thank you.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Sarah Harrington, Daniel Courier?
So you mentioned qualitative data. Are they surveying students or is this just faculty?
We discussed talking about reaching out to Ireland and do.
Any further? Seeing none, thank you, Sarah. Vice President's Report, Student Equity, Joseph Bonilla.
Good evening, Senate. On Friday, I met with community partner. Wow, I can't speak English. I met with community partners regarding collaborative efforts for this year's Month of Lord. I have confirmed that both Westfield State Health Services and Campus Street Westfield will be tabling at events on Saturday, February 10th. This is a great opportunity for students to learn about the sexual health resources available to them both at the institution and in the Westfield community. With the changes in the Division of Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, the division has restructured a bit of their calendar for the month of February. I just want to make you all aware, encourage you all to attend tomorrow's event, welcoming 2024 Grammy-nominated poet Kevin Powell to our community. He will be giving his speech, Young America and Future of Our World. As I will not be seeing you guys on Thursday, I want to acknowledge Black History Month and its significance to our and other communities across the United States. The month celebrates the contributions of Black Americans to the United States despite our history of racism and oppression. It honors all Black people from all periods of U.S. history, from the enslaved people first brought over from Africa in the early 17th century, to those during the civil rights movements, to those living in the U.S. today. This month is a time to reimagine and work toward a better future for the next generation of Black Americans that encompasses the values of dignity and respect for each individual. Today, the Campus Pride Committee's Subcommittee on Gender Inclusive Restrooms met with Joshua Hetrick, the Associate Director of Space Management and Facilities, to discuss the logistics of creating more spaces on our campus and inquire on updates to current projects. It seems that for spaces like Bates and Dower, we are unable to repurpose existing facilities into gender-inclusive restrooms due to outdated plumbing codes, meaning that renovations must be made to include these projects. And considering the scale for renovation for either of these buildings, the costs exceed our financial bandwidth at the moment. The subcommittee will be convening with the committee at large to discuss this information and formulate next steps regarding suggestions and so on. So stay tuned for those details and I'll provide them at some point. As always, feel free to ask me any questions either after my report or via email at vpequity@westfield.ma.edu. And for today's quote, I would like to share one of Langston Hughes's. In his poem, Frosting, he wrote in his book, The Panther and the Lash in 1926. Freedom is just frosting on somebody else's cake, and so must be, so we learn how to bake. Thank you.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Joseph Bonilla? Seeing none, thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Vice President of Court Finance, reading for KON, Dan Courier.
This feels a little bit weird, it's back to my old stomping grounds. Good evening, everybody. Finance Committee met for the first time last Wednesday, the 24th, to discuss one finance proposal in this semester's meeting time. The Finance Committee will now meet on Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the SGA conference room, which means the cutoff for finance proposals to be submitted is 3 o'clock on Tuesday afternoons. Now onto the finance proposal. Proposal S24001. Today's proposal is from Model United Nations. The club is requesting $700 for the National Model United Nations Conference in New York. The funds would be used for the cost of transportation, hotel, and tolls and parking. The request is within limits of the finance bylaws. The Finance Committee decided unanimously to amend the proposal to $600 for the purchase of transportation, hotel, and tolls and parking. Therefore, is there a motion to accept the amended Model United Nations proposal of $600 for the purchase of transportation, hotel, and tolls and parking?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions on the motion? Chris Perro?
How much money do they currently have in their account, if any? If you know.
Point of information?
We are technically a class, and we were supposed to get help from academic affairs, but they didn't and sent us here, so I had to make as a club, I think, like a month before we submitted the finance proposal, so no, we have nothing. All right.
Any further? We will move on to voting. All in favor of moving $600 to the conference from Model UN? Sorry, yeah, allocating.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Any further
questions?
Are there any further questions, comments, or concerns for Dan Courier? Seeing none, thanks, Dan. Vice President for Publicity, Elizabeth Mercer.
Hi everyone. Last week NAB met and we discussed our plans for the spring play and the reception for the neighbors. Like last year, we will have pizza before the play and President Thompson will be there. Stay tuned for information regarding dates and more upcoming NAB communications. Also, thank you to everyone who joined the Owl Ball Committee. Please consider joining the Blue Key Committee as well. Through this committee, we are tasked with awarding students the highest award from the SGA, highlighting the hard work that they do to better Westfield State community. We will need one representative from each class year. Those interested need to be nominated. Next week, we will hold nominations for this committee. If you have any questions regarding it, then that meets one time, please connect with me. Thank you.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Elizabeth Mercer? Sarah Harrington.
Who will be nominating each person next week for each class?
The president.
Haley Kane.
Hi everyone, I just want to give a point of information about NAB and the newsletters for like a quick update. So last week when we met, we decided that this semester we'd be sending out one newsletter. There's just like a delay with a lot of the newsletters for the fact that like Margaret Day wasn't like able to do it for us last semester, at least that's what I was told by our advisor. So I think we're going to move forward this semester and hopefully have one sent out by like end of February, early March, so that we can reach it out for the pizza party in April. So that would be like our way of like saving the date. If for some reason we can't do the newsletters class, I think we're just going to do like a postcard like we've done like last year. So hopefully that will still help to promote the event. But I know last semester I talked a lot about the newsletters, so I just kind of wanted to like give an update for everyone.
Thank you. Chris Barrett?
I just wanted to clarify something. I thought last year for Blue Key it was 2 from each class. Did it change this year?
Point of information, I think there's only one, it's only requirement for one per class.
I guess point of information, we'll check the Constitution.
Any further for Elizabeth? Seeing none, thank you, Elizabeth. I forgot to write on the agenda. Executive Secretary Report, Adam Carpenter.
Hold this mic because it's gonna sag if I don't. It's been a bit since I've done an actual report rather than an announcement. So much so that apparently our dear president forgot about me on the agenda. But I have a few changes to the way that my role will engage with SGA, which I would like to share with you now. The first of these is I'm currently working on a project to digitalize attendance for office hours instead of having a physical sheet of paper. I would like to thank Jacob Constant for moving me to go towards this idea because I've been sitting on it for a while and not actually doing anything. This should be in the form of scanning a QR code and then submitting a Microsoft form indicating your name and the duration of your office hours. This will make it much easier for me to track and enforce that senders are actually completing their office hours, which has previously been a challenge. The second update is that this past week was the first version of the new modality of summary minutes. I think that they're a giant step in the right direction for us as an association to take, but with this step, however, I need all of you to be more open and transparent with me in the event that you believe that my summary is not correctly representative of the thoughts that you were trying to verbalize. It is not only okay, but it is a requirement that you would then be able to come up to me and amend the minutes if need be, and I would appreciate that if that were the case, because I am not a perfect human being. The third update that I have is that elections are honestly not that far away with how fast February flies by. Please consider what position that you're thinking about running for in the next academic year, and if you're considering exec or any position that you're generally not too familiar about, I'm happy to work with you to get a better understanding of that position, and I'm sure that goes for the rest of our executive board as well. And the final update that I have to share is that if you have not checked in with an executive board member and are not on 2 committees, please do so after the meeting, as we're really trying to make sure that everyone is on at least 2 committees, as that is part of your role as a senator. That is all that I have.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Adam Carpenter? Seeing none, thank you, Adam. It was nice to have you report again. On to the agenda next time. The new parliamentarian report, Justin Wall.
Hello, everybody. I want to express my gratitude for electing me to this position. While going through the note Ethan left for me, he highlighted a crucial aspect of this role. The Senate has elected me to advocate for and represent senators, and I'm fully committed to fulfilling that responsibility during my time in this position, however short it is. Turning our attention to the tasks at hand, Ethan provided me a list of ongoing projects, including the examination of the history and yarn club constitutions, and the revision of the safety and liability waiver to ensure greater inclusivity. These objectives will certainly be among my top priorities as the semester unfolds. However, there are a ton of other tasks that require attention. Dan and I have been working on writing, editing, and finalizing both a class council constitution for each of the classes and a commuter class constitution, which will hopefully be ready for review by rules and regulations, the class councils, and the commuter council by next week. Finally, rules and regulations will meet Friday at 3 p.m. to start the work.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Justin Wall? Seeing none, congratulations. Oh, sorry, Sarah Harrington.
Well, I was just gonna say congratulations on your first volunteering report.
We're chilling now? Okay. Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Waltz, and congrats again for being parliamentarian. Class of 2024, Class President Caitlin Egan.
Hello, everyone. The class of 2024 had a busy week. Our 100 Days to Commencement Toast is 8 days away. We've been working hard to make sure that it is a successful event. We toured the space and made sure that all of the logistics were taken care of, working with their event coordinator to lay out the spots for our alumni association, catering, the stage for the toast, the place for photos, and an open area with cocktail tables for mingling. Now we're also wrapping up a free senior week package at the door and are happy that Nestor will be with us and gathering ideas for their 100 Days to Commencement celebration next year. We'll be finishing up purchasing the decorations this weekend and are otherwise prepared. Next, we're shifting our focus to senior week, really elevating our advertising by making Instagram reels in addition to sending out another reminder email, hanging physical flyers around campus, and potentially holding another information session if there is enough interest. I'm hopeful that we will reach our goal of 150 students by the deadline of March 1st. If not, I hope that our efforts this year will help you plan and execute your own senior weeks like the class of 2023 did for us. Finally, we're switching our meeting time due to conflicts to Mondays from 5 to 6 p.m. in Ely 003. I'm glad that we will now be able to have all council members present. As always, if you have any questions, please ask them now or after the meeting is concluded. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Katie Egan? Chris Perro?
Can I ask how far you are to that 150 goal, or is that like private information?
Laura?
It's
Your
not
hobby.
private now, there's sales are still going on, so I think there's about 10 tickets sold right now.
Woo! 10! Yay! But we're hopeful. We're hopeful that at 100 days we're going to be able to advertise that more. And like now that 100 days is going to be behind us pretty soon, this is like going to be our sole focus. With all of the elevated advertising we're doing, we're hoping that people will. I know that none of my council members have gotten one yet, so that's on us. And there are a lot of people who are just like waiting to buy one. So we're trying to like switch that mindset to be like, buy one now, and if there's not enough people, of course they'll get their money back, but at least we'll have like a more accurate number.
Nicholas Smith.
Hello. I want to thank you for all the hard work you've done. President for 4 years is an incredible goal, so congratulations. I'm excited for 100 days despite it being 8 horrifying days away. And if anyone can do it, it's Katie Egan, so. Are there any other comments for Katie Egan? Seeing none, thank you, Katie. Computer class president, Ellie Lashini.
Hi, everybody. The Commuter Council met Wednesday, January 24th at 3:30 via Zoom. Our meetings for this semester will continue to be virtual due to schedule conflicts within the council. All members were present and Laura. We discussed the upcoming semester and brainstormed plans for the council. Firstly, discussing possible ideas for our very first event of the semester being in late February. Further information and planning to come on that. We also discussed ways to further utilize our social media presence to engage the commuter community on campus. We talked about coming up with a logo idea, which we would use as a commuter council logo to print for laptop and water bottle stickers for commuters on campus. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 7th via Zoom. We plan to further solidify logo ideas as well as plan for our February event. We are excited for the spring semester for the commuter council, and if anyone has any ideas for events or ideas for the logo, we would love to hear them. Thank you.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Abby? Seeing none, great work, Abby. Oh, sorry, did I miss one again?
Sorry, I keep like thinking of things.
Oh, Sarah Harrington.
Have you considered like having a competition for the logo and maybe having like an incentive?
We have not, but that's a good idea. Thank you.
Katie?
Yeah, I did something like that my first year here. My class council did like a t-shirt designing contest where everyone like designed a logo for our class. And we put it on a t-shirt, then the winner would get like, we probably overspent, but we got like this huge prize basket for the winner. And we got a lot of engagement, so that might be something and a way to like get more people who get aware of your social media presence to get more just like following. Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you, Abby. Is there any new business? Announcements. Daniel Courier.
All right, so after this, if any of you have your car on campus, want to go over to Hot Table, we're doing a fundraiser tonight. 35% of your purchases will go to the Accounting and Finance Club, so helping all of those that will be doing your taxes in 10 years, that would be great. And also, just in addition, we have an event on Thursday, Housing in America. So it's really interdisciplinary. So we're talking a little bit about the finance, but also about the social and historical aspects of housing in America up to this point and all the history behind it. So we encourage you to come at 4 p.m. on Thursday in Wilson 404.
It's a great chance to move your car.
If all the class presidents, as well as the commuter class president, could talk to me after the meeting, just to get a touch base for next week, that would be appreciated.
Laura Cafaro.
Hi everyone, if you're interested in joining for the next year, I would love to connect, so just let me know either after the meeting or reach out to email or stop by my office.
Joseph Padilla.
Hi, so I just realized I should give you guys the time and location of tomorrow's event. So it's tomorrow in the Unique Hall multipurpose room from 4:30 to 6:30. If you have any other questions, you can definitely shoot me an email or ask me.
The person was also nominated for, I believe, a Grammy, right?
Yes, I did include that.
Crazy. John Zacco.
As far as everyone knows, our applications are active, so we're in charge of who want to be on the next year. They are live in our my housing account. You can go to my Westfield. They are advertising for Handshake. When you don't apply for Handshake, it is through our my housing account. We're having a full session in the hall and across campus, so if you have questions, see when those live in RA.
Take it away, Katie Egan.
108 days till commencement.
If there is no additional business, I call to a whoa.
Roll call.
Sorry, roll call.
Sorry, that was really rude. Caitlin Egan.
Here.
Timothy Allen. Isabella Cattell.
Here.
Scott Dewan. Here. Nick Colombo. Here. Anderson Delaire. Here. Gage Glanville. Here. Crystal Mills. Naomi Brito.
Here.
Jeff McLaughlin. Here. Patty Silva.
Here.
Benjamin Burnham. Here. Shaquille Leary.
Here.
Ariane Baker. Abby Glashan.
Here.
Desiree Brown. Fabian Morales. Haley Kane.
Here.
Isabel Moniz.
Here.
James McDonald. Nick Black. Savannah Souza.
Here.
Miles Jordan. Gavin Fazio. Jacob Constant. Here. Austin Morgan. Here. Brendan Rita. Here. Maggie Roberts.
Here.
Daniel Lyons. Here. Liam Connor. Here. Angela Hayes.
Here.
Chris Piro.
Here. Maybe we need glasses. Now, if there is no additional business, I call to adjourn the January 30th meeting of the Student Government Association until February 6th. Presidents, come see Justin. Yeah. Life doesn't matter. Yeah.